My name's Henry Gilkey. With me is my longtime friend Judd on the ones and twos. Say what up, Judd.
What's up?
We're joined by Robert Norris from Mope, fresh off the release of a tasty new EP titled After. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I want to ask overall, what is Mope? Like, is this a singular like artist project that you bring on collaborators for, or is this like a formal band?
That's a good question. I think it started kind of as the former. It was just kind of my own songs that I just invited all my friends to kind of play on, and then after that, it kind of turned into more of a band. So I would say like all the stuff up through this last release have been kind of me bringing on just like anyone and everyone who I respect and love in the music world around me. And now, kind of after that, we started playing those songs live. And now we have a band, and we're kind of, we've been writing things together. And that's been really cool. And so we just recorded another EP that'll be coming out probably in the spring. And that we live tracked with the whole band. And that was like very much like the band wrote those songs together. Yeah.
And so, do you like? I've seen like on your Instagram page, like you have multiple collaborators. So for this EP, is it strictly like all the same members? You guys wrote different songs, and it's going to be strictly that group, or did you bring on like extra people for certain songs?
It was pretty much the same group, with the exception of my studio partner, who kind of engineered and produced the the whole thing. But he's kind of always been involved in a weird way. He's kind of always there. So I guess yeah, it's just all the same people. And well, usually I'm the primary songwriter, and so I'll bring an idea to the band usually, and then we'll like flesh it out together as a group, and then it'll kind of evolve as we play it live, and that's kind of been the new formula, and that's been really fun and exciting.
So where are you guys located? I know you just had a kind of like a mini tour in the Northeast. Are you guys located in the Northeast?
Yeah, so we're in Brooklyn, Ridgewood, Queens, technically, I guess, because that's where our studio is. But yeah, we're all kind of Bushwick adjacent, Ridgewood, Bushwick, you know.
Okay.
No, I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay. How'd you make it out to where you're at now?
I think that like all of my friends just wanted to get out of Florida. And I went to like, a magnet art school out there. And it's funny because like a lot of the people I went to high school with were out here now. They're all out here. So it just kind of worked out that we were all just like planning a mass exodus to get out to New York eventually at some point. And I initially moved to Boston to go to school, and then I discovered that just like wasn't the life for me, and so I bailed and moved out to Brooklyn with a bunch of my friends, and that's how I ended up here.
That's awesome. Okay. How did you come up with the name Mope? I think it's really like unique and original. It's also short and simple and does a good job of portraying the kind of music that you make. When did you come up with that idea?
I wish I could take credit for it. It was actually funny. The first batch of songs that we were recording, Eamon recorded those songs, and he was just like, I was trying to figure out a name, and I couldn't figure out a name, and he's like, man, you're the mopiest person I know. He's like, that should be your band name, Mope. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually really good. And it just kind of stuck. And I think that really does capture the vibe of the whole thing.
I think it's an awesome name. All right, so I want to start off from the beginning, at least stuff that you've released officially on streaming platforms. So the first official release that I've seen is the song Lazy in April of 2022. What prompted you to finally like start putting stuff onto streaming services and actually like releasing music that you wanted to give to people?
Yeah, well, it was kind of a journey. So my father, he owned a recording studio in Florida where I'm from, and I had a band called SS Francis way back when in high school, and we had written a bunch of songs, and we had this, album we were recording, and none of the songs ever saw the light of day. And so I was just kind of sitting on a bunch of material for a really long time, And then COVID happened, and like everyone, I was locked in a room, and I decided to start doing something with my time, and that, was just rehashing a lot of these songs, and like some of them are new, and a lot of them are like old, old and new at the same time. And I was just like, I'm gonna like actually get something out because I've been wanting to do this for so long. Um, and I mean, it was like a long time. It was probably like 8 years, but I had sat on a lot of those songs, and so I was just finally like, you know what, like. I'm gonna push and dedicate I'm just gonna do it. And then that's when Eamon was just like, look, I'll help you record these songs. Let's just get them out and make them, see the light of day. And it was really, important to me. It's just like to actually see it through. I think that was my primary motivation, was just to like get a project finished, recorded, and released. And so that's kind of where that all kind of that came from.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you. That's a huge compliment to hear. But yeah, I guess I've always been kind of a singer-songwriter, and I think I've always been afraid of writing boring songs, and that is probably not founded in any reality, honestly. But I think that like. There's then that element of things where I'm like, I have to keep this interesting or I'm gonna get bored of it, or someone else is gonna get bored of it. And then there's this other element of it where it's like I kind of just write chunks of songs, and sometimes they work together, and sometimes they don't. And I just think it's really fun to like make them work together. And I do enjoy that part of the journey where it's just like I I'm like these two parts like they I think I'm trying to say the same thing with them, but they're like two totally completely different things. But they feel like two parts of the same thought, just like in different time. And I'm like, okay, so how do I make that work? And I think that is something that I kind of do after the fact. I think I like the challenge of trying to like figure out how to make those things work together. Because I think it's also really, and believe me, there's nothing wrong with this, but like sometimes, yeah, I'll sit down and I'll write a simple song and it'll be, really cohesive the whole way through and there's no like weirdo changes and that's fine. And then sometimes I'm like, I want the challenge of like I want to figure out how I can do this. Like this doesn't seem like the easy way, and I like that. I don't like doing the easy thing all the time, you know? And sometimes that's right, but other times no. And I think that like a lot of that music was like that. That was me just being like, how do I like make this, square peg fit in the round hole, so to speak. So yeah.
Out of those three, Hesitation stands out to me the most. That's actually the first song that I found by you. Still listening to it. And I think that, well, actually, I want to ask, up to this point, everything you released, are you the singer on all the songs?
Yes. There are chunks of stuff where it's like friends and people, but primarily it's me, yeah.
Okay, so I think with Hesitations, you do a really good job with vocal harmony, and I know that's not something that's easily achieved, especially when you're doing other parts of the song. Like you said, you were doing a lot of production stuff for like the first 8 years that you're like putting these songs together, and on this new EP, you're kind of handing off some of those roles, so it's not solely on you. Were you like trained in singing? Like, how did you get into feeling comfortable finally singing, or like I don't know, did you take like vocal classes or did you just kind of know?
I think I was always singing. I was singing for a long time, and I don't think I was ever really good at it. And then my dad made me join a men's choir because it's like if you're gonna sing, you need to like learn how to sing. So I was in the men's choir with Chris, who I mentioned earlier, and That was horrible. I hated that. But it taught me a lot. It did teach me a lot. It taught me about control. It taught me to listen to certain things. And I wish, of course, at the moment, like when I was, however old I was, I don't know, I was like 15 or 16 or something. I was just like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. And now I'm really thankful for it, but I'm also like, I wish I'd paid more attention. But I probably still need to go and get like vocal lessons and whatnot. But like, yeah, that really helped me hone my voice in and realize that like I do have a good voice. And I think I found a sweet spot with that. But it's funny that you mentioned with hesitations. I was actually trying to not, I wasn't even trying to do harmonies on that song. I was actually trying to double my vocal. And I like instinctually, I didn't even know I was doing it. Eamon was just like, dude, you're just singing harmonies. I mean, it works. It sounds good, but like, we're doubling the song right now. So it's like one of those moments where I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing at all. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I've been my whole experience with music because I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just kind of throwing paint at a canvas and just hoping something happens.
Yeah, and I think that's when people come up with the best stuff because you can have the most technical training in the world, but also it's almost like the more rules that you know, it becomes harder to break them. I feel like when you first get into making music, it's a lot easier to like experiment and play around versus like once you start knowing the rules, then you start judging yourself more, and it makes it harder. So I think that makes it more organic. Um, so moving forward again, you released another single in November of 2022 titled Velveteen. Or is it Velveteen?
It's Velveteen. It's
Velveteen.
Velveteen. Yeah.
What was the idea for the name choice behind that? Maybe it was just some you just chose a random name. I just thought it was an
Uh,
interesting name.
well, it was a Velveteen Rabbit, that kind of story. I was like, I was coming out of like a long-term relationship, sort of, and I met somebody, but I was also trying to, my current partner, actually, we had just met and started dating, and it was like there was a lot. It was like a kind of a just a rush of feelings and like experiences that all kind of came at once really fast. And I don't know, there's just like this idea of like I'd also been really burned in the last relationship I was in. I thought it was the story of the Velveteen Rabbit is just like kid loves this rabbit so much, but it's also killing him. And I mean, it's very dramatic, obviously, but like it was kind of that was kind of the thought. I was like, hey, what am I getting into here? Is this like a bad idea? So that's kind of where that name came from.
Okay. Um, so then moving into April of 2023, you come out with 430. I saw that, I believe it was on your Instagram. You said up to that point, even though, this has now been a year span of releasing singles, that most of what you were recording was done during COVID. What was your recording setup like during COVID? Were you like in the studio or doing stuff from home, or was it a mixture of both? I know it was a long span, so it could have been a lot of different
So
things.
yeah, it was a bit well. So I did like all the demo recording in Connecticut. We were fortunate enough to stay, my partner and I, with a friend of ours, um, out there, and they had this like little. Their parents had this like little cottage, this prayer cottage, that they put out in their yard, and it was like perfect for a studio. So we like set up a little interface and like my whole home setup in there. We would all take turns because they're all writing songs, all of us, and we'd all take turns in that space. And it was kind of our studio, and so yeah, it was just like a lot of being cooped up in there and like recording. And I brought a couple of mics, with me out there, and then I kind of took all those things and I was like sending it to Eamon as I was getting things kind of finished, and then we were also in the middle of building our studio. We took a 3-day break, recorded all of the songs, and then went back to like heavy building the studio. It was insane. It was really crazy. But yeah, that's how we did it. So it was just like kind of a two-phase thing, and that worked out really well. And yeah, that was the deal.
Okay, now we're in 2024. You signed with, I want to get this name right, Samula record label?
Stimula. Yeah. So Simula's it's Michael's label that they started in Phoenix. It's yeah, Simula.ltd or simulated. And yeah, it's funny because it's kind of a joke, but it's not also it's also like not a joke. It's like it's just the whole like culture around record labels and the industry and all of that is something that I think we all like to mess with, especially Michael. Michael's like just the king of that. They love to do that stuff. And so they started this label, and it was mainly so that they could like, get get booked and stuff for, so people would pay attention to them. And they started like signing other bands to it and stuff. And it's kind of started turning into this like real thing. And then they were like, should we sign Mope? And I'm like, I would love to be signed to Simula. So we're signed to Simula now. Um, but yeah, I mean, I honestly think it would totally be a thing. And if I was going to be signed to anyone, I'd love to be signed to my friend's label. I think that's awesome. So yeah, that's what Simula is.
Do they handle like your distribution and stuff now? Like, did anything change signing with them, or are you just kind of on board like with their artist roster?
I'm on board with their artist roster. I still handle all my own distribution. I mean, I just do it with DistroKid. I don't have it. I'm not signed to any. So I don't have a distro deal or anything like that. But yeah. I mean, I think that's fine for now. Uh, I don't know. It's hard to say what benefits there are for me at this point with like getting a big distribution setup going. Just because I have so many friends who are like in that situation, and I see like very few of them actually getting the results they want. And a lot, I have a lot of other friends who don't, who just like use DistroKid, and they're doing great. They're doing just fine. They just like they know how to do it themselves. I think at a certain point, that's not something I like doing. So it would be cool to have someone handle it. But that will happen when it happens. Maybe Simula will take that on at some point as it grows. We'll see. But for now, we're happy with where we're at, and things have been going kind of steady, and I appreciate that.
So this year you came out with a full EP titled After, which I think is outstanding. My favorites are What Does It Mean After and Holy Shit. The project's really cohesive, which I think is an extremely hard thing to do, especially after just releasing singles. I think that they all meld together very well, and you've kind of now established like a unique sound for yourself with this EP. It sounds like really like 60s and 70s, and I think we're music's kind of gone away from that, but then also there's people like you and all these other indie artists that are kind of bringing it back, and I love all those sounds. That's how I first got into music.
Mhm.
And I think your voice blends extremely well with the sound design choices that you use. Were any of the songs on this project in the works for a long time, or were these kind of a part of a new writing period?
Um, this is a new writing period. I had some events take place in my life, and I think that is where all of those songs came from. And so, yeah, over 3.5 years, it's what it took. I wrote those songs, and yeah, I think the reason they feel cohesive is because I think they are like me processing this event that took place, and yeah, that's yeah, they're of a new era.
So What Does It Mean is my favorite one on the EP. And I saw that the guitarist on it is Johnny Aries. Is that right?
Oh, yes, yeah, he played the bridge on that song, yeah.
Which is super catchy. Has he worked with you on anything else, or was it just that one song?
That was it's the only song he's worked on of ours, but it was fun. He's a good friend of mine. He came into the studio one night and was like, I feel like he just kind of laid that down, and one or two passes just heard it immediately, and it works super well. I think it makes that whole part really strong.
Okay.
I think that the only way I was going to be able to fully I think those songs kind of represent a complete thought, and like I didn't want to break that up. I think that I am a huge fan of like EPs and full lengths, and I know that isn't kind of the way things work anymore, which is some people hate that, some people love it, whatever. I think that there's like a place for singles. Sometimes a single's just like, hey, it's like I just had this one thing, and it comes and it goes on. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything else, and so that makes sense. And then there are other times where it's like I'm trying to like kind of tell a story, and all of these songs are that story. you know, so like, I mean, some of my favorite records are that way too. Like Congratulations by MGMT is a perfect record, and that whole thing is just like, I don't think it could work any other way. And I felt that way about these songs. And I don't think that would have worked if I just released them as a bunch of singles and then they weren't like a under one umbrella thing. So yeah, that was my motivation.
What is your favorite song? It doesn't necessarily have to be on the EP, but that you like to perform live.
Favorite song to perform live? That's a good question. They're changing our live setup right now, so I guess that might change. But hmm, fun song to play live. I guess Oh No is really fun just because like I don't have to. I play guitar for like a very short amount of time on that song, and I kind of get to lose it, which is really I get to really kind of perform on that one. Just like feel that song. And I always kind of blow my voice out a little bit, and I always just like, you know, the crowd is always just like kind of responds in a really fun way. And I think that right now is probably my favorite song to play live. Yeah.
I do love that song as well. So you're also credited as the drummer on a lot of these songs. Is that right?
Yeah.
Um, so do you always record like live and acoustic drums, or do you ever use like like a drum kit or something and like program the drums in?
I do not program drums typically. That doesn't mean I'm like opposed to it. My primary instrument is drums, and I kind of learned how to record on recording drums is like my first thing. So I really enjoy recording drums. I like spending a lot of time on them and making them sound a certain way. Um, and so yeah, I think I mean I write on drums kind of better than I think rhythmically. And so like drums are just a really easy way for me to like create dynamic and rhythm in an interesting way. Because I do think that like one of the things about my songwriting that is strong is the rhythm element of it. Because I don't think I'm writing anything like I'm not writing these crazy progressions or anything. They're all pretty simple things. So I think that I often use rhythm as a way to make the songs more interesting. And so feeling that on the drum kit is a really fun way for me to do that. And so that's the way we did all of these songs. But I do like the idea of recording drum samples myself and then using those drum samples and then with a drum machine, like programming those, adding those in for texture. I think that's a really cool idea. And I am kind of doing that with the stuff I'm presently working on. That's will come at some point. And then, but then Michael Madrid, who is really, I mean, they can play whatever they want, but they're a phenomenal guitar player. Like the way they play guitar is just raw, pure emotion, and it really shows. And so they started playing drums for Mope, and that was kind of their introduction into it. And so like I live in the pocket, they create their own pocket. And so like these new recordings that will eventually come out, you'll hear that. And that's really fun. And I think that kind of really adds to the whole thing. So drums are like a huge part of the whole process and the writing and how everything happens, I think.
That's really interesting. I just it's hard for me to imagine starting with drums as a way to write music, but I think that is an interesting angle to go in at making music, and I think that the drums are very like intriguing in all the songs that you have. I've also seen clips of you and just generally in your songs being like a instrumentalist. Are you trained like formally with any instrument? I know it sounds like drums is your main thing. Did you like take lessons growing up? Like how did you learn these different instruments?
No lessons at all. YouTube was my ally and just a lot of exploration. I wanted to take lessons, and my father had his master's in like classical guitar. I don't have any of that. I just as fully intuition, which is there's something beautiful about that, right? Like there is like a childlike curiosity that you approach things with. Which is something that I think I often forget growing up in a studio environment with trained musicians. I'm always like, I have to be tighter. I have to be tighter. So I spend a lot of time trying to get to a place where I feel like I have that. And now as I've gotten older, I think I spend a lot of time trying to forget that like sometimes it's like the shitty demo that you did where you're just like playing the chords wrong and you're screaming in your high key is like the most compelling thing you're going to release even when you finish the song. And I think, or the compelling version of the song. And so I think that like I really try to lean into that. I try to lean into the fact that I am not classically trained. Granted, there are probably things I will do and should do just to like refine certain skills that I have. But like, yeah, I don't know theory or anything like that. It was just me like, I think that like that works, and that and eventually started to see the language and understand a little bit better across the different instruments.
So I want to dive into your background a little bit, and I'll try and get you out of here quick. I'm sorry for taking so much of your time.
No, totally good.
So, just in general, what would you say are some of your biggest musical influences? It doesn't have to be a certain number, just people that have inspired you in the music that you make.
I mean, I grew up like listening to the White Album and like Abbey Road a lot. I love those records. Were like really huge for me. Liam Finn, uh, I'll Be Lightning is like top three records for me. I love that. I love that record so much. I found that record when I was like 11 or 12, and I still to this day listen to it, and I'm just like it's really just so it was perfect in every way to me. Wilco, another huge influence of mine. I love Wilco. Really beautiful songwriting and production. I love how weird all that stuff is. It's super interesting and like not what you would expect, which is something I really love. I don't know, MGMT, Todd Rundgren, um, also kind of has that like 70s thing going on. MGMT's kind of all over the place, but they have these really beautiful moments where they're like kind of tapping into that, and then they have these like really pop moments, and I think that's really cool. I like messing with stuff and kind of taking it out of its region and like you know someone will write a pop song and it's like, well, let's make that country or something, or it's just like let's bring in these other elements and like make it a little weirder. And so I think that there are people who are really good at that, and I really love that. Off the top of my head, those are kind of like the big ones that have kind of stuck with me for a lot of my life to now that I can recall. But I'm sure I'm all over the place with music. I love music so much. That's all I do is just like listen to music. My library is insane.
Yeah, and I mean that's a tough question because there's so many different there's so much music that's come out even in just like the past decade. So I know that's a tough one. But is there anyone is there anyone that you're listening to like right now that you might have just found that is kind of it doesn't have to inspire you, but just someone you're listening to right now that you just found?
Greg Freeman. He just put out a record maybe a year ago. And it is such a cool record. It's a ripper. I mean, it is so emotive. It is just like it's a gut punch, and I love it. Yeah, Greg Freeman. I mean, Homeshake put out that record, CD Wallet, which is my favorite record of theirs, and I've been really digging that one too. I've been listening to that a lot. There's another band called Twy, and they just put out an EP, and that is another really great EP. It's just like such a solid ripper. Like it's just like a slow, steady burn, and the whole thing just feels really good. I would say those are like some records that right now I've been like listening to just on repeat, like every day, probably just like get at least one song off of those records regularly.
Um, this one's kind of a different kind of question, but what's one thing that people don't know about people from Florida?
They're not all crazy. Um, actually, I don't even think that's true. We are all insane. I don't know. Florida's just a weird place. It's like a vacation town, and where we grew up, it doesn't even feel real. Like, Florida is a very strange. Like, it's like a country in and of itself. There's so many different regions, so many different cultures in Florida. Yeah, I don't know. We're not all crazy, probably is maybe a little bit true, but I have no idea.
I think
can't
that's
make it.
I think that's a perfect quote. I love that. So you have some really cool photography and artwork in your cover art. Do you do that yourself, or does someone do that for you?
That is kind of a collaboration between me and a few people. So my life partner, Alex, is a photographer and videographer, and printmaker, and so she did like a lot of the early stuff. And she like we worked on it together, but she took all of those photos. And then I would say that, I mean, the after stuff was me and Matt, the bass player. Matt's a really, really good designer and just visual artist in general. And so like I took those photos on my little Canon, my 70s film camera, and then I gave them to Matt, and then he like kind of turned them into something. And so yeah, I'm really happy with that stuff. I think it feels really good. But I mean, I studied like fine art for a good portion of my life, and I left that kind of world for uh, music, I guess. Yeah. And it's, I mean, I do like fabrication. I do like art fabrication is kind of my day job. But yeah, it's fun to get back into those processes because I was like really into that stuff when I was younger, and I don't do it anymore. So yeah, Mope has allowed me to dive back into some stuff I love, and the art has been a really great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what DAW do you use if you're like producing on the go? Like, are you a Logic guy, Ableton?
If I'm producing, I like to use Ableton, and then if I'm mixing, I like to use Pro Tools, typically. Yeah.
What I know you said that there's an EP coming up. You said in the spring of 2025.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I would
Um,
say.
so can you kind of talk about that project that's coming up and anything else you're planning on doing in the future?
Yeah, I think well this little thing is it's small. I mean, it's gonna be 4 songs. So there's gonna be a revision of Slow Spring. We kind of started playing that live, and it felt like the song wasn't fully written, and so when we started playing it live, it really came alive, and something happened to it that is just like it's just so much more compelling. And so we re-recorded that, and we're gonna put out another version of it with this group of other 3 songs. And the other 3 songs are, yeah, I think after it was super maximalist, like I literally sampled like the floor squeaking and stuff, like and holy shit, like there's a lot of craziness in that thing, which is why it took so long. And I'm glad I did it, but now I'm just like, okay, I want to do something simple. Like I want to like again, like that home show. All those records I was just talking to you about are like they are that. They're really simple. There's not a lot going on. And I think there's something they just create like a pocket and you live in that and you just like kind of marinate in it. And I was like, I really in love with that. I want to do that. And so that's what these next few songs are. And they're kind of like my Bruce Springsteen moment about being like a working class person and trying to survive in New York City. And so that's a thing, and I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be really good. There will be strings and stuff on it, and yeah, it's pretty raw, pretty simple, and I think it's going to be a nice juxtaposition to like what just hit, what just came out. And then after that, I don't know. I've been writing this kind of to getting the arsenal going. I will maybe do a full length if I feel like I can do it. I might go down and record that in Florida with the band. Just get everyone down there, have Eamon record and produce it probably. So that's a thing we've been kind of talking about doing. And then there is another band called Mope, and they are in North Carolina. It's Mope, period. And they write also cool music. And so I reached out to them and I was like, we should work on something together because we're both Mope. And he was just like, I'm so down. Let's do that. So we exchanged a bunch of ideas and we're probably going to like take one of each other's ideas and like finish it and put it out. So that'll be a fun little thing. We might do that. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what's on the horizon for us right now. I don't know. I'm probably going to do some more touring. I want to do that in the spring, play more shows. I'm excited for shows. But I'm in a weird place right now, honestly. Like getting these songs recorded and doing it so quickly, like this, after taking so long to put out these first 2 collections of songs, it's just like, okay, now what? I don't know what to do now. I'm just like, okay, And I kind of accomplished a lot of my goals with this project as far as I'm concerned. So I'm just like, okay, I gotta like recenter myself and figure out what that looks like. But it's exciting and I'm having fun and like I love the people I make music with. It's really that's like so fulfilling and I want to keep doing that and like working on other people's records. I love making records. So yeah.
That's cool. Is there anything else you want to add? Like, do you have any live dates coming up, or do you want to like say where people can find you at?
Um we're on the YouTube and the Spotify and I think everything. We're, Apple Music and all that stuff. I mean, so you can find us there. I don't have a Bandcamp. I need to get a Bandcamp thing going. We have a show at New Blue on November 20th with Eleanor and Morning Silk, and that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to that. It's kind of Griffin's farewell show before he moves to LA, and we never see him again. I'm kidding, of course, but yeah, I guess that's really it. And oh, we filmed the whole process of recording the last little EP, so we'll probably put out some kind of a movie of some sort. It'll be funny, I'm sure. We like making fun of ourselves. So yeah, there's just this stuff's brewing. Stay tuned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Well, I'm psyched for it. I loved the new EP a lot, and I think you have a really unique sound, and I'm really interested in hearing more for you. And I really appreciate you giving me the time. And I know it's a Saturday and stuff, so I really appreciate it.
Well, no, thank you for caring and taking the initiative to get in touch with me and having and featuring me. Having me, it means a lot that the music is like hitting people and they're appreciating it. That's huge for me. That's all I kind of want out of any of this is just that it makes someone feel something. So that's cool. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course, man. Well, have a good one, brother.
Yeah, you too. Take care.